Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Karla Steingraber. I'm a performance and sports psychologist as well as a clinical psychologist. And welcome to What's Your Everest? This is a podcast where we explore success and all the aspects that make somebody successful. We've had lots of guests on this show who have discussed how they've become successful in their career, how they define success, the struggles they faced. We've had a variety of guests, parents of athletes, as well as someone like Charlie Grantham, who helped the NBA Players Association get started. Some of our future topics are going to cover what college coaches look for when they're recruiting athletes, what it takes to be a great coach, how young people can make a difference, even parent and child relationships in the process of pursuing success, as well as many others. So I chose the topic or the title of Everest and What's Your Everest? Because ultimately, this is a mountain that is, the biggest in the world. And we all have something that we look towards. And sometimes it just feels like it's way too big to attempt or start. And really, sometimes it's not so much about the view from the top, but rather about the process of reaching that goal, challenging yourself, ultimately playing the long game, because pursuing success is actually the really interesting part of the journey. The preparation, the discipline, what you're willing to do for the goal that you want to achieve. What is something you are willing to sacrifice for something you want more? I first started my psychology career just in the clinical realm. What was so fun about my job and my training was that I got to work with so many different people in various settings. I did some training in a hospital setting, in nursing homes. I worked with the foster care system. So I just had a really diverse training background and work background. But eventually, I had a little bit of a lull in my practice. And while I was pursuing some of my own athletic goals, I started to realize that there was a lot of overlap between athletes and what they're going through and what I got to talk about in the therapy room. So I decided to start looking into sports psychology. And this has been an incredibly wonderful addition to my practice because athletes really are very used to working towards goals and working hard. And that really aligns very well with the pursuit of success, a topic that's very interesting to me. I've had the opportunity to work with quite a wide variety of athletes. I do get to see a decent amount of perfectionists where they're very hard on themselves and they really believe that there's just one way to get better, that there's a perfect way, or that there's really this perfect end result. And ultimately, we have to work on softening that a little bit so that they can free themselves to really chase those goals and not be so narrowly focused on one specific result. I also have dealt with athletes that have too much anger or aggression, and it gets in their way because they get too frustrated, or there's lots of anxiety over making mistakes. Um, these are just some of the common issues that you see very often in young athletes. With the more elite level athletes, there are different issues typically. On the one hand, there's a lot of overlap these days with young athletes versus elite athletes. They're putting so much pressure on themselves. Even 9-year-olds are already thinking about getting recruited for college, which is perhaps a little premature. Younger people also have parents today who are way more interested and invested in the outcome. So, very often, athletes are very outcome oriented. The one thing is that the elite athletes often have more of that kind of figured out. And so they can let go of the result. I mean, my favorite example of this is Michael Jordan, who ultimately ended up saying that he didn't care if the ball went in or not because he had already put so much effort into his practice that his confidence over how he had prepared was very high. And you see the same thing with Scotty Scheffler and some of the other elite athletes. They perform well because they've let go of the result, right? Even though they still are success oriented. So there have been lots of clients that have taught me a lot about myself as well as my practice. In fact, I learned something from everybody I work with. Everybody comes with something that is different or new, even though there are lots of similarities, right? Every person is a person, and anxiety is anxiety, whether you're an athlete or a student or a parent. And so there are similar ways of understanding this and similar coping strategies. However, some people are dealing with chronic issues. Sometimes I am actually confronted with a new sport that I haven't worked with before, or, one time someone came in who wanted help in the mental game when playing bags or pickleball. So I've learned a lot from each of these individuals, what they're willing to do, if they're willing to do what it takes versus those that are just more interested in being comfortable, and somehow figuring out with them together how they want to move forward, how they want to pursue success, what success looks like to them. Um, so those are some of the things. And of course, there are big differences between individual sports like golf or tennis versus team sports. And then there's also a different kind of pressure when you're talking about some of the sports that can involve high levels of injury, let's say skating or gymnastics or some kind of skiing. So they tend to feel a different kind of pressure or fear of what is dangerous than someone playing basketball. In our podcast, What's Your Everest? We ask each one of our guests to explain what their current Everest is. We want to know, what goal are they chasing and how are they working on it? How do they view all the steps that they need to take towards success? When we ask them about this, we also ask them what advice they would give to someone who might have a similar Everest, who wants to be where they are today. And also just to start learning all the different aspects of success, the different ingredients that make somebody successful. My Everest is to get my second and third books published. They are about a growth mindset for both teens and for parents.
Hi, everyone. What's your Everest? We all have a mountain we're trying to climb. My book here, What's Your Everest? How to Win in Sports, Career, and Life While Enjoying the Ascent, is here to help you with your journey to the top while enjoying the climb. It's written for both teens and adults who are looking to grow, push themselves, and believe bigger. It's available on Amazon. And if you find this book is helpful to you, even with one step up the mountain, I'd truly be grateful for your review. Keep climbing. You've got this.
I also am very involved in certain nonprofits. I have co founded a nonprofit that deals with mental health for golfers. So, obviously, that's something that is on my mind, and I'm actively contributing towards that. I am working on completing my fourth marathon shortly and training for that, and raising confident and autonomous children. And then hopefully share some of those learnings with others around me. For anyone interested in becoming a sports psychologist or even a psychologist, I would highly recommend to push yourself, be ambitious, learn about the human psyche from every angle you can think of, putting yourself in different situations, in nursing homes, working with foster care, working with a support group, maybe on a subject matter that you're not that familiar with, working with all ends of the human life spectrum, children versus geriatrics and nursing homes. All those things have been incredibly informative for me and have been very helpful when dealing with people who are either coping with an aging parent or thinking about adopting, whatever it is. All these aspects are real and important parts of the lifespan and what somebody is going through. At the end of the day, each athlete is a person, and people struggle with so many different things. It's really worthwhile having different learning experiences and keep reading. There's so many amazing books out there where people have spent maybe a decade researching information, and you get to have all that information in just a week or two, however long it takes you to read the book. So I highly recommend reading and diversifying the books that you're reading to learn more about all these different aspects. And the last piece of advice that I would give to anybody is to always work on letting go of the result. Even if you are chasing a particular result or you have the goal of, say, climbing Everest, you still have to take it one step at a time. And there are so many steps along the way. So, celebrating those small steps and trying to enjoy the process, even if you just have to be proud of the fact that you are building grit. Please check out our Instagram page at Everest Strong Coaching and our website, evereststrongcoaching.com. And thank you so much for watching, and like, comment, follow our page, whatever you can do. Thanks.